My grandma, I know a lot about her because she used to live with us, and I used to go to her house like almost every weekend. Every weekend, right? So I'm close with her, and she cooks all the time and bakes. I think I learned a lot from her too, how to bake and stuff and how to sew. Like when I was little, I remember I was trying to sew this dress. I never finished it, but I was trying to sew this dress one time, and she was just there sitting with me, helping me. And is it crochet that she does? Yeah, I learned how to crochet from her. I can only do one line, but she taught me how to do that one line. But my great-grandmother, I don't know. I know because she tells me, but I never met her. But she said that I have a lot of the traits my great-grandma has.
My grandmother was a feisty little old lady. I think she was maybe 4'11", but that lady was strong. Like nobody could hold her back, ever. You know, she became a widow very young. Before she hit 40, she was a widow. And so she was left to raise 2 children on her own. Those kids never, my mom and my uncle never went to jail. They never used drugs, nothing, because my grandmother ruled with an iron fist. She had a personality. She was very opinionated, which Hadassah is. She has an opinion on everything, and she's right and everybody else is wrong. That was very much my grandmother. But my grandmother was also very creative. She would bake, and she'd make the most delicious things all the time. Hadassah is a great baker. My grandmother was a fantastic seamstress. I had an auntie who was getting married, and her mother-in-law was not exactly the nicest person and bought her the most ridiculous dress for her to marry in. Well, my uncle was a minister, and the wedding dress that was bought for my auntie was something that was very revealing. She couldn't wear it. So my uncle took my aunt to my grandmother and told her, "Can you make her a dress?" And my grandmother said, "Well, take me to this, go and show me which dress you want." So she took her to the store. I think it was a Joski's or something like that here in San Antonio. And she showed her, "This is the wedding dress I want." By the time my grandmother was done with that wedding dress, it looked exactly like the one that was on the mannequin. And my auntie wore that wedding dress. It was exactly what she wanted. Hadassah is very creative, just like my grandmother. She sews and all kinds of stuff. She sits there and makes her ribbon skirts by hand. My grandmother was very much by hand. Hadassah has to sleep with her eyes covered. My grandmother had to always have her eyes covered. From very little, the first time I saw my daughter laying there with her legs crossed, asleep, with something covering her eyes, it was like, that's grandma. That's my grandma. It's her spirit in my child. It skipped me, all the creativity, all the cooking and baking completely skipped me. But it's all in her. It's, when I miss her, which I miss her every day, but when I miss her, I look at my daughter and I feel at peace because I have a piece of my grandmother with me. I can't have her back, but I have my daughter. And that is the most amazing thing for me because I have her with me in the form of my daughter.
I feel proud to be who I am because I know my mom can have a sense of relief.
Yeah. My mother is very crafty, very creative also. She learned that from her mother also. We always say, "Mom, why didn't you teach us?" Now, I gotta say, my grandmother did try to teach me how to make tortillas, and that was a disaster. So she ran me out of her kitchen, and I was never allowed back in. You know, it was just easier for her to just do it herself, you know. But my mother was like, I don't know, she always did everything for us, you know. She was very young when she got married. You know, she was 15 when she got married, 16 when she had her first child, you know, and she had us very quickly, one right after the other, except for me. I'm 6 years younger than my last brother. But she was, I guess because my grandmother had been like that, like she did everything for her children, right? Because her whole life was about her children. My mother was like that too. Like, she would take us to school, she would pick us up, she would cook all our meals. Now, that's not to say she didn't teach us how to do some of the things, but she, you know, I feel like my mother's whole life revolved around her children. You know, she didn't really have her own life. She got married very young, started having children very young, and so it was all about us all the time, you know. And I think that's why us now, her children, you know, we do everything that we can for her. You know, her birthday was last month. Each one of us took turns picking her up and taking her out for a meal and taking her to go pick a gift, you know, or something. I think that's why we do it, because her whole life revolved around us. She didn't have a life. We were it. So I like to say that my whole life is my children, but I think that I have also learned a balance of, you know, everything I do is for them and about them, but I've had to realize that I need to cut away from them a little bit and do something for me, because they're going to be gone someday, having their own lives. And if my whole life revolved around them, what am I going to have? I'm going to have nothing. And so I don't want, as much as I love my mother, I don't want her life. I want mine.
It's understandable because I've already, like, not that I've had kids, I've experienced being around kids, and it's a lot to handle. So I don't get mad at her. I don't resent her for wanting to have her own life. Like, she's 53. How am I going to get mad at that?
I'm 54.
Oh, 54. So how am I going to get mad at that? Like, I'm not going to complain. I'm trying to have my own life, so why should I get mad at my mother for having her own life? It's not fair.
I came at a time where I could choose what I wanted to be, right? And then I gave those tools to my children for them to make those choices, to see, like, you know, this is who I am, and I choose to do this. They have choices that we didn't have growing up. And so everything that I do is for them, is to show them, this is what you have. I'm giving you this. This is your gift. And I'm giving you the choice to choose what you want. You can take it, you can leave it. If you take it, do with it what you want. And they run with it, you know. My husband is half Chinese, so my son has chosen to follow his Asian side. My daughter, I think, is like me and tries to live in both worlds of Judaism and, you know, her indigenous side. But if she grows older, I know that she may decide to take one single path, and that's up to her. what she chooses, that's the gift that I can give both of them, is to choose what they want. Like, I want to know what this experience has been like for you.
The interviews? Like what?
All of it, like the whole journey.
Oh, a lot. Like from either waking up early or staying up late. And I mentioned waking up early a lot because I hate it. Because I have to wake up early to go to school either way. But even when I was in school, it was cool because people would ask me questions and stuff, especially when I'd wear my ribbon skirts. They would be like, "Can you make me one?" No, you're not getting one. This one took hours to make, so no. And but they'll ask me about it and stuff, so I like talking about it a lot. So I think educating people, especially because I wanted to be an educator at one time, but I know I can't handle a bunch of kids at once. So knowing that I can teach people about something that I love, something about me, is really cool.
Does it have to be because it's about you?
Not necessarily, but I think it helps. Just because, like, how I grew up, I was bullied, so it's kind of nice to know that someone cares, even if, like, it's not just your, like, oh, you have pretty makeup, oh, you have pretty hair, oh, your clothes are nice, you're prettier, but you're the hottest girl in school.
Oh, my God. That poor child.
It's, like, nice knowing that other people want to get to know you and want to know more about where you came from in your culture. So it's not necessarily me. It's about this whole thing.
It's about the whole culture.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah. I think the one thing that I want her to realize is that journeys are important and they take many twists and turns. They don't always take us where we think they're going to take us. And sometimes we have to take detours, and it's okay to take that detour until you find yourself. Because your identity is so much more than what race or ethnicity you are. It's a sum of many parts. So you have to run the race yourself and find your place in all of this craziness and hoopla of identity. And you'll find it. You just have to keep searching for it. Because your identity is not me and what I do. It's all about you.
It means a lot because I've always, like, just been right next to her everywhere she goes. So now, like, growing up and being in high school and leaving for college next year, like, I have to get used to being myself and being who I want to be rather than just sticking by her, sticking by my dad or something. So, like, once you learn that you're able to be yourself and you don't have to be either what your parents are, and you know that your parents are encouraging you to be who you want to be, that helps a lot. You see this woman in power and you see something that you can be when you grow up. And it's just so beautiful seeing her because I know she had a hard time growing up. So I'm so glad she's able to do this for herself.
It's been a long journey. Growing up, not knowing who you are. And, we did have a hard life growing up. And so we've had a rough journey. But this is why I do what I do, because I want my children to know who they are. I tell people all the time that my mother raised us to be very strong women. I have 3 sisters, 2 brothers, and a half sister who didn't grow up with us, but she got there as fast as she could and blended in very well with us. But my mother raised us to be very strong and to be very proud. But she couldn't teach us what to be proud of because she didn't know. So it was just like, be proud of who you are, be comfortable in your skin. Don't ever let anybody tell you that you're less, And so we started, we grew up got married, had children, and we started to raise our children to be just as proud. I wish that my mother had had her own life. I try, you know, I have to say I have one of the most wonderful husbands in the world, because he has never been one to say, you can't see your mother. I know people who are estranged from their family because of their spouse, you know, and but he's not that person. And so I've had the privilege of being able, and the honor to be able to take my mother on vacations, you know, with us, and for her to be a part of that and enjoy those things. I'll never forget her face the first time she went to Disney, you know, with us, or the first time, you know, when we took her to Colonial Williamsburg and then to Washington, D.C., you know, and seeing her face enjoying those things, you know, seeing that smile on her face, for me, it was like I was able to do that for her after all the sacrifices that she made for us. Being able to do that small thing for her was like a gift that she was giving me all over again, you know, being able to see her enjoy that. And I'm thankful that my husband allows that, you know, that he didn't say, your mom can't go, you know, we're going to spend more money, you know, one more mouth to feed, one more ticket to pay for, you know, never. It was always, bring your mom, you know, have her enjoy this. And to see her enjoy it with my kids, that, you know, that was a memory that I'll never forget, being able to see her do that, you know. And I know that it's probably not anything that they remember now because they were so young, you know, but it's always something that's going to be there, is having, you know, even if it's just in a picture, those memories of her there with them. To me, it was very reminiscent of having my grandmother with us all the time, you know, and getting to see us grow up and do different things, right? I was very young when I like to say I was very young when my grandmother passed. I was 18. You know, so she didn't get to experience a lot of different things. My mother has been able to see her grandchildren and experience all kinds of things with them, and watch them grow. You know, I have older nephews and nieces that now have children, and so my mother's a great grandmother, and watching her great grandchildren grow up. It's just one of her greatest joys. And for me, it's like, I can't wait to experience that myself. My main question that I always have is, how do you feel about the work that I do? And what do you think your place in it is?
Sometimes it can get annoying because you're always out and about. But I get it, like, you have to do that. It's not a choice that you can have when you're doing this type of work, especially because you're not thinking about yourself, you're thinking of everybody else. So when you see that work going, you see everybody prosper, and I think that's mostly the reason why you do it, because you're not selfish. You choose to do it for everybody else. And, like, what was the question? The full question?
Do you see yourself in the work?
Yeah, because you take me everywhere, or you try to take me everywhere, except like the presentations, because I like to sleep in. But I do, and I eventually see myself like benefiting from it. But that's not the only thing I see. Like, that's not the only reason I participate. Is participate because I want to.
Do you see yourself ever having a role in the organization?
Hopefully one day, because you already know what I want to do, and it's not completely that, but I think we can help each other out.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's about bringing it all together and making it one.
Like, I don't think I have to be the president or secretary or anything to be included.
Absolutely.
I can just be there to support.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that I can get because I understand that, you're fortunate that you're growing up in the time that you are, because in my time, nobody cared about that culture. It was always, you're in America now, act like it. Don't speak Spanish because you're in America, speak English. So you're fortunate that you're living in a time where that's not happening to you, and you are free to be who you are. And you can openly talk about it, and nobody's going to try to stop you or shut you down. It's a very different thing, and I'm thankful that you have that freedom, because we didn't have it. You can take advantage of it now. The one thing that I always tell everybody, and this, that I tell you and your brother this all the time, is to do your best to grow up and do great things and become productive members of society, because somebody came before you to fight for the rights that you enjoy today that they never got to enjoy. So don't let them down. Make them proud, because they didn't have those privileges and those rights. Go out there and make damn well sure that you make them proud, because you're standing on their shoulders and you're free to be who you are.
I hear it all the time, so I think now I'm just very used to it. Not that I don't appreciate it, I'm just used to hearing it a lot, whether it be from her or my tias. I just hear it a lot, so now I understand. Because for a long time she would tell me that, and I was like, what the heck are you saying? What are you going on about? But now that I'm older, I can understand, and once I understand, I can accept it, and I've already accepted it.
What do you understand about it?
That don't just not do anything with your life. Go out and do something, and that's what I'm doing right now, because I'm in high school, but I'm going to graduate with my associates, and after that, I plan on getting my my bachelor's and then my doctorates in psychology, so I can open up my own clinic, basically. So I'm working very hard in order to make my ancestors proud, but also myself. And once I see that I've done something with my life, I'm proud of myself.
How does that make you feel, hearing that?
It makes me proud, because she's doing something, she's not letting anything hold her back. She has a goal, she has a dream, she's going for it. We didn't have those opportunities, It makes me happy that my daughter has, that she has goals and that she's accomplishing them. She has an opportunity to do something that I didn't have the opportunity to do. I don't have a college education. Would I have liked to have gone to college? Maybe. I had a lot of dreams and aspirations, but we didn't have those opportunities. Now, my older brothers and sisters, they have now, as adults, they've gone to college. My older sister has her degree. My older brother has 2 masters. My other brother has his master's. They all went to college as adults. I haven't had that opportunity. Will I take it at some point in the future? Maybe. I don't know. But I've never let that fact hold me back. I educate myself in other ways. I read everything that comes across me. You know, if somebody tells me this is something you need to know, I'm going to read it and I'm going to figure it out and incorporate it in how I need to. So, you know, that's never, a lack of college education has never been a problem to me. I'm not going to let it hold me back. If I have a goal, I'm going to figure out how to accomplish it, whether I have that certificate behind me or not. But for my children, I don't want that for them. I want them to have opportunities that weren't afforded to me. And I want them to take advantage of it. And she is, you know. I want them to have their dream and go for it. And I'm going to be there every step of the way cheering them on until they accomplish it, whatever that may be.
You don't even have to have a degree from a lot of things, especially what you've done now. And I think you not going to college set you up for bigger and better things. I don't think everybody needs to go to college. I think for me, that's the thing I have to do. And especially for the career I want, it's required. If I didn't have to go, I wouldn't go. But I think you've come a long way without having to have all those things, especially because back then you can do stuff in trade, like tradesmen and stuff. But obviously you've done something without both.
Yeah, that was thanks to my mother and my grandmother, because they would tell us, you can do anything that you set your mind to. Now, of course, my mother was always like, no matter what you want to do, learn to type and learn to, you know, work in an office, because if all else fails, you'll have something to fall back on. So we all learned, you know, how to type, how to file, how to talk on the phone, you know, all kinds of stuff. And yeah, it served us well. You know, we did some amazing things with that education, you know, with that high school education, right? So it's been, but it's because of them, because they told us, don't let anything hold you back, in spite of everyone else trying to hold us back. They told us, don't let it. Go out and accomplish something. Go out and do something. So, you know, I'm thankful for them. I'm thankful for them because we are who we are because of those two strong women.